Remember that feeling? Opening a brand new box of Legos as a kid. You could build anything, right?
Yeah, the creativity just takes over.
Exactly. And that's kind of what we're talking about today. But instead of plastic bricks, we're talking about a technology that lets us build almost anything, like layer by tiny layer.
It's pretty mind-blowing.
Get ready to dive deep into the world of 3D printing, or, as the engineers call it, additive manufacturing.
We've got a great video lined up to illustrate all of this, and some of the stuff they're doing, it looks like magic. And the almost magical thing is, it's not just making toys. I mean, imagine printing a human organ or a house.
Yeah, have you ever stopped to think about that?
It really makes you think about the future differently.
For sure. So you've heard of 3D printing, but what are we really talking about here?
We're talking about taking a digital blueprint and turning it into a real physical object
Okay, but how?
by building it up one super thin layer at a time. And the video does a really great job at explaining the different ways to do this.
Right, it mentioned a bunch of acronyms like FDM, SLA, SLS. I'll be honest, those sounded a little intimidating.
They do sound pretty technical, but once you understand the basics, it's actually pretty straightforward.
Okay, so let's break it down. What's FDM?
FDM stands for Fused Deposition Modeling, and it's the most common type of 3D printing.
And how does it work?
Imagine a hot glue gun, but instead of glue, it's squirting out melted plastic filament.
So like a really precise, computer-controlled hot glue gun.
Exactly. And it builds up your object layer by layer.
Okay, so that's how you get those cool little models and prototypes.
Yeah, it's great for that.
What about SLA? What's that all about?
SLA, or stereolithography, uses light to solidify a liquid resin. It's kind of like developing a photo, but in 3D.
That sounds even more precise.
It is. It creates incredibly detailed objects.
Like what?
You see a lot of custom jewelry being printed this way now. Anything where you need a really high level of detail.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, then what about the last one, SLS? What makes that one special?
SLS is where it gets really interesting, especially from an engineering standpoint.
Oh, how so?
Well, with SLS, or selective laser sintering, we're not just using plastics anymore. We're talking about metals.
Whoa, really?
We're talking titanium, aluminum, the same stuff they build airplanes out of.
So instead of a glue gun, this one's using a laser.
Exactly. A high-powered laser fuses the powdered material together layer by microscopic layer.
Okay, so SLS is the big leagues of 3D printing.
You could say that. It's used to build some seriously impressive stuff.
That's amazing. So we've gone from hot glue guns to high-powered lasers. And it sounds like the possibilities are pretty much endless.
It's true. We're really just getting started with this technology.
So we've gone from hot glue guns to lasers, all to build things better, faster, stronger. But I want to know what this actually looks like in the real world.
Right.
It's one thing to talk about the tech, but the video mentioned using 3D printing
Right.
everywhere from, like, jet engines to custom-fit shoes.
It really is incredible how it's being used.
So where are we seeing the biggest impact right now? Give me an example.
Well, let's take healthcare, for example. You know how when someone needs a hip replacement, it's kind of a one-size-fits-all situation?
Yeah, I never thought about that.
Well, with 3D printing, you can actually scan the patient's anatomy and print a hip implant that's perfectly customized to their body.
Wow, so no more trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Exactly. And it's not just about the fit either.
What else can you do?
Well, you can design these implants with a special kind of porous structure that encourages bone growth.
Really?
Yeah, which can lead to faster healing times and a better outcome for the patient overall.
So it's like you're not just building an object, you're helping the body heal itself.
Yeah, you could say that.
That's amazing. What about other areas are we seeing these kinds of breakthroughs elsewhere?
Oh, absolutely. Let's shift gears from the tiny world of medical implants to something huge space.
Okay, what are we printing in space?
Well, think about it. Sending anything into space is incredibly expensive and logistically difficult.
Yeah, every ounce counts.
Right. So instead of trying to send up every tool or replacement part an astronaut might need, what if you could just send up a 3D printer?
Are you serious? We're sending 3D printers into space.
We are. And it's a total game changer for these long missions.
How so?
It means astronauts can print tools and replacement parts on demand using materials that are already up there.
Wow, that's incredible. So not just exploring space, but like setting up shop.
Pretty much. And that's just scratching the surface of what this technology can do.
It's like, what can't we print at this point? It's mind-blowing. It seems like anything is possible with this technology. And speaking of mind-blowing, the video touched on something called 4D printing.
Ah, yes. 4D printing.
I thought we already covered the main types. What is 4D printing?
Yeah, it's not really printing in a fourth dimension, even though the name makes it sound that way.
Okay, so what is it then?
Think of it as printing objects that can change over time.
Objects that change over time. What do you mean?
Oh.
They magically rearrange themselves.
Haha. Well, not magically. It's all about the materials. We're talking about materials that are designed to respond to things like heat, light, or even water.
So you print something in one shape, and then it can like morph into something else.
Exactly. Imagine, for example, a pipe that could expand to seal its own leak.
Okay, that would be amazing. No more calling the plumber for every little drip.
Yeah.
What else could you do with that?
The possibilities are pretty much endless. Imagine self-folding furniture or even buildings that could adapt to changing weather conditions.
Wow. So we're talking about a future where things can practically fix themselves.
We're getting there, and it gets even wilder. The video even mentioned printing things like food and clothes.
Wait, you're serious? Like printing a pizza?
Well, not quite pizza yet, but 3D printed food is a real thing. They're already using edible inks made from things like chocolate and even mashed potatoes.
Okay, that's pretty cool. But clothes? How do you print clothes?
It's pretty amazing. They're using 3D printing to create these really intricate fabrics and designs. Imagine being able to customize the fit and style of your clothes, all from your own home.
So from personalized food to custom clothing, the future is looking pretty high-tech. And what about those 3D printed houses we saw? That seemed like a whole other level.
It is. There are companies using giant 3D printers to build entire houses layer by layer.
No way. What are they using to print them? Concrete.
Some are using concrete, others are exploring more sustainable materials, even bio-based materials.
Bio-based materials, what does that even mean? Like, are they growing houses from mushrooms?
It's not quite that simple, but it's not that far off. Essentially, they're using materials that are derived from living organisms, which can be much more sustainable than traditional building materials.
Wow, that's incredible. It really seems like 3D printing has the potential to revolutionize so many aspects of our lives.
I think so too. It's really an exciting time to be following this technology.
It really is. This has been an incredible deep dive into the world of 3D printing. We've gone from hot glue guns to lasers, from printing tiny implants to building entire houses. It's mind-boggling.
It really makes you think about what the future holds.
It does. And listener, as you go about your day, we want you to ponder this. What would you create if you had a 3D printer at your fingertips? Let your imagination run wild, because in the world of 3D printing, the possibilities really are endless. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive into the frontiers of technology.